So the main reason I wanted to show you this preset is it's actually got me out of a lot of problem situations where you don't quite know what to expect. So the main problem that I found was moving from a clean sound to a dirty sound. Getting the volumes exactly right would be quite tricky. Now, if you're on a gig where you've already pre-locked that in, you've probably had rehearsals to get that all together. But if you're on a gig where you're depping, or it's something that you're new to gigging, or you haven't rehearsed that much and you want to adapt on the fly, this is, in my opinion, one of the best ways you can do it. So imagine you're playing like a classic rock riff. So this is the bridge volume control on full. I've actually got the tone rolled off to about 5. Now, if I wanted to move to a clean sound, I can just roll my volume down, basically. Now, I've already preset the bridge volume control to be a lot lower. So it's not a crystal clean tone, but it will register as clean in a live mix. So if you play something a bit funkier, now if you look at the level meter on here, the level does change a bit. But there'll be more space in the funky music for you to be heard, whereas with the rock stuff you kind of need that extra little volume lift, but it's not overwhelming. So now I'm going to go through the settings. Let's start with the amp. This is basically a basement, so the drive is pretty high, up at 8.8. The bass is at 1.4. Let's keep it nice and tight. Basically any higher and it starts to flub out. The mid is on 8.2. Treble is on 4.2, the presence on 7.2, the channel volume at 5. That's quite important. The master's at 10, and then I slightly reduced the sag to 3.5, hum at 5, ripple at 5, bias up to 8. I think it starts at about 7, and the bias X at 5. Now, basically, what all this adds together to create is that effect of going from clean to dirty with the volume control. The channel volume is very important, but I'll come back to that in a second. Now, the preset that I uploaded with my attempt at Joe's tone, I'm going to do another new improved one. But I've slightly changed it to work across a few more genres. You maybe lose a little bit of the smoothness, but it gives you a bit of the funky, clean thing. So now let's look at the cab. We've got a 57 dynamic. Both of them are on a 1x12 creamback, open back cab. Now, I actually had this in a deluxe once and I loved it. So we've got 57 dynamic on the cap edge, 1.5 inches away, offset on the 45-degree angle, low cut at 105, high cut at 7K. And much the same settings for the 906. Cap edge 2.5 inches away this time and straight on, not on the axis. Not off axis, sorry. And the low and high cut are set exactly the same. So now this is where the channel volume comes in handy, or shows its importance rather. So we've got a compressor here set up to do not a great deal of gain reduction. But it's set in parallel. Now what I mean by that is we've got this 50% mix here. And that means we have the uncompressed signal blended in with the compressed signal. Now this just keeps it all tightened together and it slightly reduces the dynamic range, so it makes sure that any really quiet, clean parts don't get completely lost. So for example, if I play really softly, you can see it barely shows up on the compression there. But on the level meter, it's still quite a healthy output. Now, if I take that off altogether, it just feels a little bit more distant and is actually less loud. So this just helps it kind of sit really nicely in the mix. Now, we'll come to the delay and reverb in a minute. Furthering our experience of the dynamic cleanup, we've got a kinky boost with the level at 3, the drive at 3. The boost is off, but we've got the bright switch on. Now that's just a personal preference. You might prefer it with it off, but I like it with it on, because then you can turn down the tone on the guitar if it's too bright, but you can't turn it up past 10. So my thinking is maybe have it a little too bright and then tone it back. Then another thing I definitely stole from Bonamassa is these Tube Screamery settings. So he uses a way huge overrated special, which is Green Rhino, which that in itself is a tube screamer. So Joe runs the tone low. You don't have to do that. You probably don't want to go above 3 or 4 if you want to keep it nice and smooth. But you can obviously adjust that to taste. But yeah, so that gives us a nice soaring, sustainy lead tone. So if I just turn that on for a second, this also gives you a mid kick and a slight level boost, which most of the time is enough to give you a solo boost in a band gig. So if you're going from there's about 5 or 6 repeats, but notice that there's a split A-B thing here. Now that means the delay isn't going into the reverb. The delay is just going out of here, and the reverb's being blended in separately. What that allows you to do is have the reverb mix on 100, and maybe even have a bit of a longer reverb, and it still tracks all of what you're playing and doesn't muddy over in the same way as if they were one after another like that. So just to show you quickly, let me reduce the mix to about 33%. This is in series, one after another. Now we'll go back to how I had it. So you can hear it's just that bit clearer because you haven't got the delay and the reverb eating up the attack of your right hand. So now if I turn the Tube Screamer on, you can hear every note, but there's space around each note, which is a really nice part of Bonamassa's playing. So I'm just going to quickly swap to a Telecaster and show you just how different this can sound with a different guitar. This is a Telecaster that I built myself, kind of based on Brent Mason's Tele, but I needed one with a body contour here, arm contour, sorry, because I was getting some problems with my shoulder. So I'm going to start with the volume all the way off. I'm on the neck pickup. All the settings are exactly the same. I've just got the delay and reverb on. So you can see there, it's a healthy level. It's nice and bright, like a classic Tele sort of sound. Turn the compressor off, it actually disappears still. Just has a bit more oomph and emphasis on it. So I'd leave that compressor on just to sort of make sure you're always heard. So now, it's still clean, just breaking up a little bit there. And it starts to get a bit bigger, but it's not hugely louder, which is why it works really well for gigs where you don't quite know what's coming or you want extreme dynamic control. That's still the cleaner setting without the Tube Screamer. Now if I go to the bridge pickup, nice and thick for a Tele. But if I turn it down, you get that twang that Teles are known for. And then if I turn the tube screamer on, really big, thick, rich sound, which I really enjoy gigging. So yeah, I'm going to put this in the description box below. So if you like this preset and you want to download it, you can actually get it for free, or of course you can build it yourself. The one thing to take note of is if you want a volume boost, the best place to do it would be here on the level control of the compressor. Because if you change the volume on the amp or the cab, it's actually going to change how much level is coming in here to the compressor. So it's then going to change the relationship here. And I've kind of set that for 3 or 4 dB gain reduction at the max. But yeah, you've got a space here where you can add your own piece. Obviously, you can drag it anywhere in the signal chain. And it'll work on HX Stomp. It'll work on full Helix. And of course, Helix Native. Let me know how you get on. Let me know if there's any other rigs you'd like me to try and copy or get similar sounds to, or if there's any other problems that you have noticed in your gigs that you'd like me to try and solve. I'll catch you in another video. Thanks for watching.